This is Beekeeper Confidential, a show about the curious lives of bees and their beekeepers. I'm your host, Mandy Shaw. Today's episode is different from previous episodes in that we have not one or two, but four guests. Each fulfills an important part of local beekeeping and ecological conservation. They're from the South Florida Beekeeping Association, and they're here to share their personal stories and how bees have inspired them to take important steps to provide education to new beekeepers and to make their communities better for not just the bees, but for the people too. Please welcome, in order of appearance, Breanna Suarez, David Riera, Megan Long, and Daniel Calzadilla. Amazing. I remember being in high school and just not really having anything together enough to even think about going to college or taking extra classes or any of that.
I think I do it a lot because my mom didn't get to go to college, so I think I'm ambitious for all of us, I guess. And I have a little sister, so I know I need to be a good role model for her because she's 5, so there's a huge age gap. I just turned 17. So the little time that we have together, I need to influence her the right way and take all these projects just so I can do that. Wow. Yeah, so I think so.
Oh, well, it looks like David just joined us.
How's it going?
This is the first time that I've featured a beekeeping association on the show. So I think it's a really cool thing. And I hope that it will lead to more beekeeping associations being we're doing this kind of project with the community. I like this direction. So David, thank you for reaching out to me and getting on my radar screen.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, that's why that's what I was talking to them about. Because my official capacity with the association is as their graduate advisor. I was one of the founding members over 3.5 years ago. So, since then, I've just, doing my dissertation and everything, I've taken a back seat on it, but I still stay true to them in this capacity in mentorship, because I really believe that no matter what, we do have institutions of higher learning, and, we do have YouTube now and Zoom, and everyone's organizing these things. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that goes on that shouldn't be done through traditional cultural knowledge. And, like I mentioned, a lot of times beekeeping is a culture. And even though there are, I could think of 5 authors that have really what beekeepers have told me, and I see as beekeepers' Bibles almost, which are kind of the industry standards. But at the end of the day, we have those books, and I refuse to just sit there and tell any of my students well, here's the book, read it, and then no, because I'm very skeptical of that being our educational system. Mm-hmm. I think that books are great reference materials, and when you're not understanding either what you're being told, or you're not understanding what you're doing, or you want to just get into the weeds a little bit, I think that it's really great to have that as reference books. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the books should necessarily just be your teachers. They should just be guides.
And I agree. And beekeeping is so regional. So unless somebody writes a book that is very specific to your region, but even then, that can't possibly highlight all of the different ways to work with bees. That's why working with mentors is so wonderful, because you get a much more personalized experience, I think.
Yep. I believe me, all my experiential programming, outreach, everything that I've ever done is really based. It's really based on that. That's why I wholeheartedly believe there's a couple of theorists that I read. I go back to, France, where they're talking about education more as an industrial complex. And I think that it has its strong points, but I also think that if we go back during Carter, Reagan administrations, when the federal education was all about No Child Left Behind, right? And then later on, up through Clinton and Bush Senior, Bush Junior, through their administrations, it was no child to fall through the cracks type of deal, which is still a remnant of the No Child Left Behind deal. I think there's a way to do it. You know, I was diagnosed with 2 or 3 forms of dyslexia. You know, reading has always been something very difficult for me. But early in the 80s, my parents didn't have the money or the right people in their life to be able to sit there and suggest specialists. And at that time, you know, that kind of diagnosis wasn't given to little kids. It was just, hey, you're just reading below your grade, and, you know, you just need to read more, because reading and writing, I've learned it's just with practice, right? So at the end of the day, now, as you know, as the 3rd year dissertation student, I actually got diagnosed when I started my master's. So I made it through 2 of my associates, 2 of my bachelors, like, you know, like a gorilla with his knuckles dragging right behind him, Cro-Magnon style. Yep. Working 10 times as hard for a fraction of what everybody else had, just to make sure to get by. And then because I also have PTSD, so, you know, I went to different mental health specialists, and I finally had a therapist at my institution that was able to be that support network to connect me to the different people. And it ended up being that one of her colleagues was a clinical psychiatrist that studied autism and studied dyslexia and studied all these types of things. So she was well versed in it, and it ended up being that she was a faculty member and a clinician at the school. So she forewent her fees and all that to test me, and
wow,
you know, she gave me that. But I really believe, like, this one-on-one, you know, auditory, visual, kinesthetic, I really believe in those fundamental ways of learning and teaching. And so even though we've taken kind of a back seat to being able to work in proximity to people, I really think that the work that my students, that Bree's doing here, that you'll hear from Megan and Daniel, I think that it's really good that we're still able to make that switch, you know, to like this Zoom universe or through the universe of virtual. And I think that it's, again, that the virtual content is a good way to engage, to still haphazardly do things and listen, and raise your awareness, raise your conscience, raise your passion, because now you start seeing that, or listening and watching, that there's people very passionate about the same things that you're passionate, and then come from the same background that you come from. You know, typically the students that I'm seeing come through my association have nothing. They're not 3rd, 4th, 5th generation beekeepers. You know, they're not your traditional beekeepers. They're not your traditional entomologists or people that like pollinators. They're literally, I have a lot of students that go on my WhatsApp chat and they post pictures of butterflies or bumblebees, or they've been posting these things called TikToks, just to show you how off I am. But these things about TikToks and bees and stuff like that. So I'm really happy that the technology is at this level, that we're able to still communicate over large expanses, and that podcasts like yours, and the videos that Bree has made and Daniel has made and Megan has made to engage the community at large and our members, will still be there even after we expire.
Yes.
Still documenting our cultural knowledge, which is great. And I honestly, like I told them all, you know, I like the fact that your podcast has engaged some of the people that I feel are leaders in this space, from an industrial, from persons of color, from female, you know, and from this traditional ecological knowledge.
Yeah.
I really feel blessed being able to listen to, because I've heard different people on the subject, but your podcast really pulls in a really rich and diverse storytelling.
Oh, thank you. We've been having a lot of conversations in our house lately. I'm kind of going off track a little bit, but having a lot of conversations with our kids about what is happening. And I got to thinking about my show, and I, started looking at the roster of people that I've had on my show over the last couple of years. And I'm like, actually, I've had a very diverse group of people.
You do. You really do. And so it goes back. So one of the things that I've done over my time here at FIU, I've been lucky enough to, for a very short while, head up as a coordinator. It's a program that was USDA funded called Veterans to Small Farms. All right. And so this is kind of like the prelude to what started, the South Florida Beekeeping Association. So I was in transition to that position, and it was literally the tail end of that grant, because the person that was the coordinator that I was working with on a voluntary basis is a good friend. And she was like, well, I'm moving to a different position in the school, and this position they're not going to be able to fill it, and I'm not going to be able to run both positions. So at least it'll give you a little bit of an income, which again, grad students don't have that much of an income. I feel like I'm getting paid like 1860s money with 2020 bills. Yeah. So I took the job, and in that transition to that job, we were off. So, veterans come back from many different contras overseas and many different bouts here domestically, whether it's from marriages gone wrong, divorce, PTSD, different physical issues that they have to bounce back from. And so I'm a firm believer on the thing that I call like agri-therapy, ecotherapy, which then breaks into many different things, which AP therapy is one of the things I wrote about early on to kind of get this thing rolling. And I immersed myself in the literature, which is far and few in between, but it is international, which demonstrates the connections to mental and emotional health from being a beekeeper and being exposed to apiaries and going through the tasks of doing hive inspections, being close to the bees. The buzzing is cathartic. You know what I'm saying? Once you get over the initial fear and the anxiety, one of my veterans that got into the program would sit there and say that it's an adrenaline rush to reach calm. It's kind of like burning the candle at both ends, that you're really all rambunctious as the bees are. But once I've explained to all the participants that have come through and have worked with me in the past, and I have to tell myself this, is the bees are a direct reflection of you as their beekeeper. It goes back to that whole, our pets look like us or we look like our pets type of thing, right? So at the end of the day, I always tell them that. I say the bees are a very direct representative of ours. So when we're sad, our bees are sad. When we're happy, our bees are like ecstatic. And when we're angry, our bees know that. And then you're going to see the bees even flip out on you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's very powerful. That's one powerful thing that I explain to a lot of people. The second powerful thing that I've even told Bree is, when you have a second and a third generation beekeepers and you've been working with the same, I guess, hives for that many generations, they imprint on you. So like your granddaughter, the bees will see your granddaughter as you, and I don't understand it because it has not been researched yet, but it is, again, within the caps, within the bookends of traditional cultural knowledge that is regionally accepted. I've heard this story from beekeepers in Michigan and beekeepers Washington State, beekeepers in Canada, beekeepers in Germany, beekeepers in South America. I've heard but it's the same story fundamentally, that bees and hives imprint on your family. And it's almost like having your own watchdog, you know what I mean? That actually, instead of just eating your furniture, gives you like a whole bunch of like holistic products, from bees to beeswax to, all this cool stuff. So in that program, we wanted to be able to give the community, at first it was, veterans, a certification on how to become an apprentice beekeeper, to add it to the diversity of what they were learning to maintain their farms and whatnot. So that was the inception of that. But at the same time, I wanted to make it accessible, because it's not just veterans that suffer from PTSD, and I know this. Students from all walks of life, especially in this social climate, from K through 12 up and through college, they suffer from forms of PTSD. You know what I mean? They suffer from oppression. They suffer from different things, of everything from finding a place where to belong while you're trying to sort yourself out in this thing like college, or what this thing in high school looks like, especially if you're not from Miami. Let's say like, you'll hear from Megan. Megan's from your side of the world, from the West Coast, and twice Megan had come over, and Megan had to go back, and I was engaging with her to be the new president. And it ended up being like, she had to take care of her parents, like I take care of mine. And then she ended up coming down this time around, and, she has to go back now. But Megan has been a prodigious, a very prodigious president. Under her leadership, we've had our first complete executive board, or what we call the B board.
I love that you in our emails referred to the association as the Hive.
Yep, that's exactly it. And that's because so Megan's nickname is Queenie, right? And so she came with that
Bree's
name.
nodding really big.
Yes, that is her.
It's Queenie, and I made her a promise when she left, that when she came back, it's very hard for us to get out of our own way, and I really try to offer my students my all. So at the end of the day, I have to take a back seat cognitively and just be there as their sword and shield. I have to be able to learn better about myself on when I can protect them and should protect them, versus on when I could give them, my entire spirit, and they could wield it at their behest. And I think that this partnership that Bree has developed is me doing that, is me being able to give her everything I have, and for her to wield it in her own onus, in her own personable way, that really makes a lasting, almost ripple effect that many hives, from here to whenever will be able to grow. So that's what I wanted to make sure. I'm a little bit long-winded. I apologize.
No,
but yeah,
this is fantastic. But the connection that you and Breanna have is that she reached out to you wanting to learn more about bees, and has like a very ambitious program that she's developing.
Yeah, go for it, Bree. This is all. So that was my segue. That was my segue. So I'm just here. I'm here in that capacity. I'm here in the sword and shield way, or I call it the wing and stinger.
Yeah. So I'm a Girl Scout. Whatever. I rose through the ranks, and it's time to do my final project for Girl Scouts, and get that award. It's supposed to be a sustainable project, and so I had to pick a topic that meant something to me. And there's so many topics that mean a lot to everybody, and I was like, what can I think of that will make an impact? And then I was thinking, and I was like, I feel that in my atmosphere, like high school and stuff, like I feel like bees, like everybody knows they need a voice and they need to be saved, but people don't know how to, or they're not looking in that direction. And there's so many other things. So it's kind of like, okay, we can roll with that. And then one day I was like sitting outside and I saw a bee and I was like, that's it. So then I distinctly remember being in trig class, and I was like, let me send a few emails because I need to find a mentor, because I didn't know anything about it. I just know they need to be saved, and this is what I'm going to focus my time on. And so I sent a few emails, and I was like, all right, I'm going to find a mentor today. And I looked up South Florida beekeeping, And then South Florida Beekeeping Association came up. I sent my email and I was like, I'm not going to hear back, but I'm just going to send this one email and just see what happens. And I got a response and I was like, this is it. The way it was articulated. And I was like, this is who I'm meant to work with. And we're going to do something awesome with it. So we developed this idea to do like activities, go into elementary schools and go to the younger audience. So they grow up learning this is what we can do and this is how we can help. So we developed this project and, we're ready to go and we're prepping the summer and trying to do like workshops of it and then go in the fall. So because of COVID, we'd had to go virtual. So we're planning on doing like Instagram lives on how to make the bee pencil toppers and just activities the kids can do at home while, and also learning. So we would have Megan from the South Florida Beekeeping Association, the Queen, she would come on as well. And so not only are you learning how to do a fun activity that will stay with you because you're going to use that pencil and you're going to remember that bee pencil topper and think, oh, I learned about the bees and how to save the bees on this Instagram live. So going virtual is a good thing and we've made it a good thing because now it's more accessible to everybody. And it's not just going to that elementary school. Now it's, wow, let me tell my friend and they're going to do another Instagram live on Wednesday and more people will join. It's now we can go even bigger than it was going to go. So we've made it a good thing. And our mentorship, I've been taken as an honorary member of the South Florida Beekeeping Association. I am in that WhatsApp group. I know, it's a big deal. Me, a high schooler, 17-year-old, we made a great partnership.
The beekeeping associations are really a lifeline to information and community that we need so much.
Oh yeah, we do a lot, especially at FIU, our college nearby, and it's a great place to share resources and find people who are actually interested and want to make a difference and want to get involved. Because a lot of times, and I understand it too, because just a couple years ago, like I wasn't in beekeeping at all. And I'm a bio major, so I do love animals, and I've always liked bees. They've always interested me, but I never really thought of like, oh, maybe I should be a beekeeper. That never really crossed my mind. But then like 2 years ago in Seattle, one of my friends just happened to be a beekeeper, and I was like, oh, can I come check out your bees? And I just fell in love instantly. So yeah, as a professional organization, we always love to help others find their passion in our community, whether it's beekeeping or just like pollinator conservation in general, or like composting and gardening.
So you guys really take a more holistic approach to bee health because you're also addressing the need for natural forage.
Yeah, definitely very holistic. We at FIU, we have like an organic garden that our gardening club handles, but we work very closely with them, and we have compost bins. And before this whole quarantine happened, we held weekly workshops where we would, talk about and introduce students to this side of ecology and how they can actually make a difference in these little pollinators' lives. Because, a lot of people are, I've also found down here in Miami, a lot of people are like, oh, I live in an apartment, or I don't have a big backyard. Like, what can I do to help? And so we have workshops where, we talk about native plants that are easy to care for on like a balcony, or even just like in your room, and how like every little bit really does help, because I know, but bees, a single bee makes only about like a 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey, and it's crazy to realize how much honey we get from these colonies. So every little bit does help.
Yeah. My mission this year, I mean, every year I do try to plant more flowers, at least here at home for the bees, but I have another location that I keep bees at, and I've been keeping bees there for 4 years, and there's really not a lot of on-site forage. And so because of COVID and changes in schedule, and my kids are home from school, and so I'm not doing a lot of in the hive beekeeping, but my efforts have been groundskeeping and getting that space ready to start adding forage, because bees they just don't have enough food.
No, no, they don't. Especially with in the city in Miami, the habitat loss due to like construction and buildings and just basic yard maintenance. Like a lot of people feel the need to mow their lawns, and they see a lot of wild flowers as weeds, and they don't like want them on their property, though, you know, like dandelions and daisies and little Spanish needles are like some of the most important species for all pollinators in the early spring to help them get going after like their winter.
Yeah. And so here in Oregon, our active bee season is March through November. But what is it like in Miami? I would imagine is it all year long?
Yeah, more or less. There's like maybe a month or two where it's like slowed down a little, just because of like the local foliage and flowers. But I think like the coldest it gets is like maybe 55.
Oh my gosh. So, I went there once in October, and I just couldn't believe like heavy of a heat it was.
Yeah.
In October.
Yeah.
So beekeeping in the humidity and the hot temperatures has just got to be really a challenge.
Yeah, it's a complete different way of beekeeping, especially we get a lot of rain. So that definitely plays into it. And the fact that the bees can be active for most of the year, we have to provide them enough food so they can stay healthy and they don't die off or get sick.
I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the beekeeping program that you guys have through your association. Can you explain the structure of the program and like how you guys built it?
Yeah, definitely. So we are in South Florida, and a separate college, the University of Florida, is up in like North Florida. They're actually the ones that run a beekeeping college, they call it. And it's just like we were supposed to, you know, me and David and Daniel was going to go too, just like for fun. But we were supposed to go up this year, but then the quarantine happened and everything, so they closed it. But they have a bee college that is just, I think it's like 4 days long, and you go up there and they just have a bunch of speakers, like local beekeeper speakers and scientists and professors, where they just like 4 days of just like all and everything bees. And Daniel went to that. The bee college at the University of Florida is about 6 hours away from our location in Florida. And so right now we're creating our own curriculum, which will be, we're thinking like over 12 weeks, like over like a normal semester time, where we will be able to work with the students and our dedicated members in gaining their Florida state certification in beekeeping. Because we do like local like bee rescues too, and a lot of students, they are interested in putting on the gear and getting close to the bees, but there are liability issues and safety issues. And as a professional organization, we do have to take steps to ensure the safety of the bees and our members. So we actually have another awesome member of our board, Julian, who's international. He's from Germany, where he's been beekeeping for at least 8 years over there.
Wow.
And he really wants to start a lecture series to help with the certification and to help with training and giving them the knowledge so they feel comfortable going out and handling bees safely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would imagine going to a 4-day intensive it's going to give you a lot of information, but it's a lot all at once. And I found, even for me, walking through an entire bee season, you learn so much more than you could in a class.
Yeah. It's bee college is like a quick crash course. You just start running. You get a lot of information and not so much like physical working with the bees.
Yeah.
It's more like workshops and lectures.
And so you guys are sort of fulfilling that need for people, giving people access to mentors and ongoing education during their probably first or second bee season.
Yeah, definitely. We work with a lot of local beekeepers. I know you know Tasha from Palm Pike.
Yes.
And she's great. And we work with a lot of local keepers and other pollinator organizations and conservation groups to find mentors and just to connect everyone with everyone else, because just like a hive, we're stronger in numbers when we come together and we help each other, we lift each other up, we encourage each other to do what we want and make a difference. And we're trying to currently, we just actually finished writing the proposal for it. So we're going to send it into FIU. But we are trying to get an apiary on campus because that's been the most difficult obstacle I've found, is not having easy access to live bees.
Are you finding that it's a liability roadblock that you guys are running into with getting hives installed somewhere?
Yeah, it's part liability and part we need cooperation from FIU also, from their team. So, we've talked to them about it and they seem interested, but the liability and their concerns with like costs and upkeep of it and how many students will actually benefit from it, which a lot will, but coming, from an executive level college viewpoint, they're like, oh, bees, they're a little unsure.
Lawsuits. You know what?
Yeah.
Just to invite the whole executive board down for some classes and get them into some of the hives that you do have access to. It'll change their minds.
Yeah, really, because we have some in Miami Beach Botanical Gardens, just a couple personal hives, and then Daniel actually houses most of the bees that we get from bee rescues. He houses those just in his backyard at the moment.
Wow.
And a lot of our members are students at FIU, and they either live on campus or they live nearby campus, and it's hard for them to travel and make time to visit the hives that we do have. So we really want to get an apiary on campus so then we can be more hands-on and start this certification program that we're creating.
Wow. That's a lot of work. I'm just so amazed at what your club is taking on. When I talked with David earlier this week, he said, you are the queen of the hive. You were running the show.
I know, he's too kind. I would not be able to to do any of this without a great team behind me, without David and Daniel and our other keeper Julian. You know, they really help out. I don't deserve all that credit. It's cool. It's a team effort. And we're also working on a master manual of our organization. So we have all our like history typed out and our members and the roles and just beekeeping in general for like a good reference tool that we can use in the coming years. You know, it should always be a hot topic, but it's definitely a hot topic right now, is the BLM movement. And just in general, the fact that people of color and Black people and Indigenous people are at much more of a risk for like just in general environmental crises. But among the beekeeping community, what we've talked about as an organization is that the Africanized bees and the killer bees are names for, or are used to kind of denote undesirable characteristics among bees, and they can often be thrown around towards just like any defensive or aggressive bee. People, you know, associate Africanized bees and killer bees with something bad and dangerous, where these bees are just more defensive of their home. They're not as domesticated as the Western honeybee that we're used to. And so it tends to give people this like unconscious like thought of
implicit bias.
Yes, yeah, yes, exactly. An implicit bias towards Africa, these Africanized bees, and that's just like another thing to demonize Africa as a continent and what comes from Africa. So we, you know, as an organization, we're actively involved in changing our language when addressing Africanized bees. And we typed up a statement maybe like a month ago about it. And when we shared it with our members, a lot of them agreed, and a lot realized. They were like, wow, I never realized the harm that calling these killer bees, the harm that it can add to. And they they offered to call them hot bees or spicy bees instead of killer bees. But we're just, you know, we want to challenge all beekeepers, all people in general, to be more aware of the language that they use and the meaning behind these words, behind Africanized and killer bees, when in reality these bees are just more defensive of their home. And we don't want to portray these bees as dangerous or as more evil than the European Western honeybee.
Well, and I think that now, because our country is having this long overdue conversation, now is the time to say, well, maybe we shouldn't use this label anymore. Maybe we need to change it because of these reasons. And when I first talked with David, he said that there have been many instances where he would be out in the community with members of the association or people that you guys are mentoring, and people would taunt them with those words. And anything that we can do to help change the climate and change the perception and change our understanding, I think that we need to do. And not calling Africanized bees or killer bees, calling them, I think it's the Apis mellifera scutellata.
Yeah, I've heard
or scoots.
Yeah.
Just call them that. And that's a very small gesture and a very small thing that we can do that can it can change the mindset, and it can help to change that implicit bias that we have that maybe we weren't aware of before.
Yeah, definitely. It's it seems like something small, but it is realistic for each and every one of us to do and to change. And we like to think globally, but act locally. And that's how you're gonna induce a major change in society, is if everyone everywhere in their own communities are aware and are learning and actively involved in changing society for the better.
Awesome.
Good vibes.
Very, very nice. Yeah, I have a little tropical garden kind of outside my window too,
Yeah.
with some bananas, some cassava, like yucca plant,
Oh my gosh.
and some avocado, mangoes.
Whoa. I'm so jealous.
I love the tropical fruits.
Oh
That's
my
that's
gosh.
like
So,
I'm a gardener first for sure.
yeah. Do bees, I don't understand how bananas grow really. I mean, I know they grow on trees, but is there a flower? Do bees
Yeah.
pollinate bananas?
Yeah,
I
definitely.
should know this.
And they love the male flowers, because actually the female flowers come down first, and then the male flower comes down after, and they love the male flower.
So
The
what
nectar
do
is
the
amazing.
flowers look like? Do they have to climb inside of a little tunnel?
So a little bit, no, but it's, they can get their head in there, but it's tubular shaped. It's a tubular shaped flower for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to Google it because now I'm curious.
Oh, they're beautiful.
I never
Some
really
people
thought
call them
about
like
that
footballs.
before. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So,
But anyway.
I just talked with Megan, and
That's
then
amazing.
earlier
Yeah.
this week I talked with David and with Breanna.
When I got certified, she was great. But then I found like an extended mentorship through all of your podcasts. Like I felt like everyone on there has become indirectly like a mentor. I can just name off a list. So many. I have like a list of all the ones that I love so much so
Thank
far.
you. I feel like I've been so lucky in how this journey has ended up like this, where I've gotten to spend candid time talking with all of these amazing beekeepers and drawing from their experiences and their insights, and it does affect my own beekeeping and how I move through that journey. But to hear that other people enjoy it and are getting something of value out of it is just amazing.
So I graduated from FIU in 2018 with a bachelor's in environmental studies and sustainability and a certificate in agroecology. And during my time there at FIU, it really was the agroecology program that kind of really helped me like connect all the dots and kind of make sense of what I wanted to do in the future.
Was that always an area of interest for you, or did you discover that when you were in college? Because sometimes people don't really know like what they're going for, and then once they get into college and start diving into certain subjects, it becomes clear to them.
Yeah, that happened in my second year, I guess, of college. I broke it into, I guess I want to do 3 degrees. So it would be the associates, the bachelor's, and now I'm going for a master's. But
wow.
It was in the associates that I started taking environmental courses, and then that's what kind of led me to my bachelor's. Yeah. But yeah, I fell in love with agricultural sciences and the environment, and I was part of the 3 clubs there: the Garden Club, the Minorities in Agriculture and Related Science, and the FIU Florida Beekeeping Association. I was the treasurer of the Organic Garden there from 2017 to 2018. And that's around that time when I met Ange, and she came and gave a talk on beekeeping. Still had really no interest in becoming a beekeeper. My first actual, this is like a fun story. I tried out for an apprenticeship on an organic farm in 2016 on my birthday, on my 26th birthday. And there was some angry bees. Like, I guess they had just been moved, they were just like, they were just a little bothered. They weren't, I guess, angry, they just got moved. I wasn't sure if it was a rescue or just moved. But they were far, like on the corner of the farm. And I don't know, we were working through the day, just feeling things out. And all of a sudden I got stung in the beard, like in the chin.
Oh.
And I found out that I wasn't allergic, thankfully. Okay, kind of keep going, like we move further away from them. And it happened 3 more times. And so, I mean, Thankfully, I got the apprenticeship. The lady, she's like, "That's amazing that you didn't like, run away." And I'm like, "No, I mean that's my first experience, but thankfully I'm not allergic." And so, yeah, fast
Wow.
forward.
It's almost like the bees they're just trying to get your attention.
Absolutely.
The best
Yeah,
way they knew how.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm a gardener first, and now I'm just in love with bees, so it just makes so much sense. They just go
Wow.
hand in hand. Yeah. So Irma kind of destroyed our greenhouse, and that's when I was going to take the horticulture
Oh.
certificate. But so it was around this. It was about the same price for the beekeeping certificate. So that's when I took the course and finished up in December of 2018. And then just I thought I'd become a hobbyist. I thought who knows, I'd get a nuke, and I don't know. I didn't expect to like start climbing trees and saving swarms and stuff. And fast forward January, February, we're already saving like we had saved a couple hives already, and we kicked off an apiary, and it was really fun.
Wow. I think beekeeping is one of those things you just for so many people it is a hobby that completely changes their life without even
Sure.
really walking into it with those intentions.
Absolutely. Yeah, bees kind of saved my life indirectly, I would say.
Yeah.
Gardening was already a passion. I had dreams of making a little small organic farm, and I thought about bees, but I didn't. It wasn't ever kind of, I don't know, so profound, I guess, and the connection really made sense. So then by the end of 2019, I'd done like 10 to 20 rescues, something like that, and I just felt right. So
Okay,
I had enough bees.
let's define rescues. Swarm
Okay.
catches, or were these like
Oh,
cutouts?
a lot of them were cutouts. Yeah,
Wow.
actually, probably 90% of them were cutouts. Yeah, there was only like three or I don't know, a couple swarms.
That's one really brave way to really get to know honeybee behavior and
It was an
nest
intense first year.
construction.
Yeah.
And even health analysis on a colony.
Sure. No, I saw so much, and it was kind of a fast track learning, but it was definitely fun. And
were there any removals that year that really stand out in your memory? I mean, I know we remember all the bees we
oh my gosh,
come into contact with, but was there one that was just really like?
The first one honestly was amazing. It was massive, and it was on the side of a garage in the back of someone's house, and it filled up 2 nukes. It was like 10, 11 frames of just brood.
Wow.
And then maybe another 3 to 4 frames of honey.
How was the comb constructed?
Kind of I mean, it looked like that, kind of picturesque ball of bees. And
nice.
I don't know.
So it wasn't like long, narrow combs built alongside of the studs.
Oh no, it was outside. It was an outside exposed hive hanging underneath like the miniature awning of sorts on the garage.
Oh my God. Do you run into a lot of open air hives?
Yeah, that's actually mostly what I do, just because I'm still looking into. So I did launch a company at the end of at the beginning of 2020, because I just
Shameless
felt
plug
that.
time.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
No, plug away, because I'll include all this stuff anyways at the end. But yeah, talk about your company.
Yeah, I just launched it. It's called Bee Wranglers LLC, and so I'm mostly doing rescues and swarm relocations, live hive rescues and swarm relocations. But it's been expanding. So many owners that I do rescues for actually want to keep the bees, and then they want me to teach them how to become beekeepers. I have this happening already, I think, twice now.
Were you expecting that when you started the company?
Oh, not at all.
Wow.
No. So I just, I mean, it's a nice little side business so far, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
I think one of the things that I've enjoyed, because my beekeeping association here in Portland has we call it the Bee Buddy program, where you can get connected with another beekeeper at no charge, just to help you. Oh, did you see that bumblebee?
Bumblebee? Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Hi.
I'm like right in their pathway. Sorry. But I think it helps so much to have somebody there just reassuring you, walking you through how to touch your combs. especially if you're doing a cutout or something, that could be really, really daunting, even for somebody who's been working with bees for a while.
It was kind of a sink or, jump and swim, learn how to swim kind of moment.
Yeah.
We had only done, a handful of inspections during our certification. And, I'd watched a bunch of videos and, read a couple books, but there's nothing like walking up to, a wild quote unquote hive and,
I'm going to cut you up now.
Yeah.
Strap you to this piece of wood.
That's right. Yeah. It was a lot of asking the bees kindly and just talking through it and being as gentle as possible.
Yeah.
I guess maybe something that I wanted to say was that, it's amazing that we have the opportunity, or at least myself, as a very new beekeeper, and just trying to find, I guess, my voice in it. I've only been beekeeping for a year and, almost maybe 2 years, I can barely say. And it's incredible. The different things that, is possible. And I'm just having a really great time, I guess.
That's amazing. Well, and also you've probably heard me preach about this before, but the more beekeeping hours you can cram in a season, not just with your own hives, but with other people's hives. And like you were having the experience of going out and touching untouched colonies and putting them into hives and then helping them through their rehabilitation and then onto a journey of good bee health. But that is something I wish more people had the ability to access.
Sure.
In their first year and their second year and their third year. You gain so much more because you're just more immersed in it.
It's been amazing. I support the full local movement of food and of course bees. So I thought, why should I order a package from Texas? Or, I didn't do enough research in terms of knowing my local beekeepers, but I did buy some queens from Sierra that Tucka worked for, and then eventually I bought some queens from Tucka.
Yes,
but this was later on. Yes, I love Tucka, and I hopefully want to meet Sam one day. Shout out to Sam. I've talked to him to maybe for a nuke, but I just haven't gotten there yet. My apiary's just been building with nukes. With rescues.
Yeah, that's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, no, it's been great. That's, I guess, why I get into them a little bit more often, just so that to make sure that they're drawing out straighter comb and attaching the comb, and if they're trying to superseed or anything, or if I need to make a split.
Yeah, you're sort of in the critical care unit apiary.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard the episode with Bee Man Dan. I did.
Not yet. I do follow him.
A long time ago. I recorded it in my kitchen pantry, so things were really low tech back then. I didn't even have like a microphone. It was really low tech. But he was talking about the whole rehabilitation process when you are taking care of a rescue colony, and I'd never really thought about that before. But like they need feeding, and they just need a lot more attention.
Yeah, the last owner was like, "Oh, when can you bring them back next week?" And I said, "No. Give me about a month or so, and we'll see." And by Florida law, we have to requeen, so I do need to get some actually queens to. But yeah, that's just been the most of my work. After I come home from work, if I'm not like rendering wax, or I just started making some salves.
Nice.
And yeah.
You're all in.
Oh no, I'm totally just in the beekeeping Kool-Aid. I'm a beak for sure.
To learn more about the South Florida Beekeeping Association, head over to beekeeperconfidential.com. I'll be including links to their social media accounts and photos of them doing the work that they love. Thank you all for listening. I hope you and your bees are doing well. Until next time, may the buzz be with you. Beekeeper Confidential is a Waggleworks production and is written and produced by Mandy Shaw. I pledge to make that change.
Yes. Get killer bees and Africanized bees out of your vocabulary.
Thank you for bringing that up.